Yo, what's up? Listen here. We're going to get straight to it. We're not even going to hold no punches or anything. Now, I want to say this. You're looking at a divine masculine, right? My daughters just hit me up. Hey, daddy, and I just blessed them. They just so happy right now, right? And I took care of myself. I don't like to treat my girls and not treat myself. We treat at the same time. Whatever. Long story short, I feel great. This divine masculine feel great. Just went and did that, now I'm here, right? Boom. Now, I've noticed that the divine masculine and the divine feminine conversations have become uh battle of the sexes. Just like men versus women, it's male masculine versus feminine, right? As far as how whenever a lot of females do a lot of the conversations that have to deal with divine masculine, divine feminine. Honestly, you have a few males if they're doing their thing, but it's really the females. Now, when the females do this, what'll happen is they'll tell the girls, "Hey, girl, you're doing great. You're doing fine. You're amazing. This is happening. And that's happening." Sometimes it'll be some bad stuff, but for the majority of the part, you're doing great, girl. You're gonna bow, 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 bow. You're getting rid of a loser. Blah, 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 blah. You're doing the best thing. Bow, 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 bow. Just nothing but uplifting, right? Upliftment, and I love that, right? For women, I do. But then when it comes to the same women talking about masculine, as far as supposed to be divine masculine now divine feminine and divine masculine. These are not supposed to be like human figures. They're supposed to be like divine figures almost, like damn near close to God kind of figures. And it just kind of show the distortions that people put on these kind of titles and not really understand what they're saying, right? So the divine masculine is reading to sound like, oh, you chasing the thought. The thought is over here doing this. You getting this disease with the thought. The thought got a baby, and then you got a baby over there. Then you got another baby over there. Then you like a dog. Then you like a dog that likes to mooch off. Now, mind you, we're talking about the divine, right? This is insane to me, right? So I was thinking, I was like, okay, well, why is it always, no matter what happens, whenever it becomes men versus women in any aspect, not even just a duality, male versus female, it's like, yeah, this one is more powerful, this one is this is that, this one has always got to be the lesser, this one always got to get put down, which usually be the masculines, right? Um, now I have a question for a lot of people in the world. Now, it's a lot of females. This is what I'm asking a lot of females, a lot of younger females. If y'all see this video, feel free to answer, but you ain't got to answer out loud. Just answer to yourself and think about it, all right? Now, with what I just said being said about the sexism about masculine and feminine divinity and how one side is always favored versus the other, which is ridiculous. At the same time, I'm noticing it, and I'm going to put a flashlight on it right now. Now, this is the last time that I'm going to go back and address this story of Adam and Eve, but this time I found the crucial part in it. I found the one that made the most sense. What was the most painful to these type of energies, right? What I would say is this. Okay, long story short, we live in a world right now where it seems like the world, what we like, men are made to like serve women, and like majority of the world is built like this. It's like a complex, right? I guess it was built behind females feeling lesser than because of the way that the society did certain things. And let's just say, even when females was in power back in like whenever, a long time ago, when they was like, kings was a queen, like female kings. Long story. I ain't getting into all that. But even when they was ruling things, you know what I'm saying, it could kind of show this type of detriment, right? This type of instability. Now look, now this is what I'm trying to say. Now, the story of Adam and Eve, without changing anything, without even considering the source, the text, and when it was created and all that other nonsense, right? Because all that has validity and it takes away from validity and all that other stuff. But my point is this. Boom. Now, you have two beings, you have God, right? Now, God is supposed to be the most utmost thing that peace and beings are striving to, I guess, come into communion with, right? And boom. Now, we all say that, but how many of us actually mean that, right? So now I'm thinking in the world, I'm like, okay, Adam and Eve, they was like God. Adam was there with God. I think we spoke about how I felt like if Adam never got lonely, it wouldn't have been no Eve, according to the story. Because when he got lonely was when he wanted a companion. And then if he would have looked at God like a companion, then it wouldn't have been no Eve, right? Just something to think about. But in this aspect, what I'm talking about is for the women, mainly. Now, I want to know, and I got a question. I started thinking, I was like, yo, would the woman have had, and like Adam and Eve, right? Did she have an ulterior motive behind that apple thing? Why I say that? because there was an aspect in the story that I just caught that made me realize that it was a deviousness there, right? Now, okay, so the long story short, we already knows when she goes talks to the serpent, we don't know what was really said. It tries to say it said this, you will be like that, y'all be like this. Mind you, ye will be like gods and all this other stuff is what they were saying, right? So it was like a plural reference, but she was singular. It was like Adam wasn't there. He didn't hear the speech, right? So who else was she talking to? Then on top of that, was that even what was said? Now, I feel like, honestly, that there was an incentive there. I feel like the serpent said, listen, this being worships God and then you, and you should be worshipped before God. Something like that, right? Why am I saying these things, right? It doesn't say this in the text. I'm reading between the lines. Now, why did I say that? Because after she eats the apple, she brings it to Adam to eat the apple. Now, women, I want to ask a question, a strong question. We already know how a lot of women feel about men when it considered is pertains to relationships. So that would be like most women would be like, yeah, I'd have gave him like if like most women would feed they other lover poison and stuff like that, right? So let's just say like the apple was poison. That it would have been like that, right? He would have ate it. But women, would you, let's say, I don't know, children, uncle, nephew, father, anybody, could be husband, could be anybody. Like, Adam never did nothing wrong to Eve in this story. So you can't use the fact that men are dogs, men are this, men are that, men violate, he did something to her. Only thing you could say is that he paid more attention to God than he probably paid to her. Right? That's the only thing. And I could see Eve thinking like, yo, getting attention, because a lot of women love attention, but she wanted all the attention minus like, you know what I'm saying? Just some of the attention that comes after he talks to Gabriel and God and stuff like that, right? So I feel like when the serpent was talking to her, it was easy. Like he promised her, like, yo, you'll be able to rule over the men. Like, Adam, you came out of his rib, but he's not better than you. So you should eat this apple and you can see the truth. And then you'll be the first one with the truth. So that way you can give him the apple and distort the truth, right? What if Eve ate the apple and then that's how the whole womb of creation and all this other stuff? I'm just saying, I'm just having a little conversation with myself, but it kind of makes sense because then you would have the Amazonians and people were saying it was only women on the world at one point, and we couldn't understand how men came into being or came into play. What if the time between Eve eating the apple and Adam eating the apple was like a tremendous kind of like time in another dimension, and this dimension is it? Because clearly when they was in the Garden of Eden, they was in a different dimension, right? They didn't have pain when they gave birth. It was like different parameters. They didn't have to till the land, right? All that came after, right? So was it like the fact that that happened because she ate the apple in that split second? She had like a existence of like lineages and female hierarchies, and you know, I mean, this is just something I'm thinking, right? But why I say that is because after Adam ate the apple, nowadays, if you think about it, that's kind of how the world is. It's kind of like based around female worship and yoni worship and sex worship, right? And it's anything but God worship though. And in Adam really was into God like that. I'm not sure if he was into hoes like that. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't say in the story he had hoes and he cheated on Eve. And so Eve gave him the apple, right? If like, would you give that to your sons and your daughters? And would that be like, yo, I'm going to a place, I'm gonna that's like I don't even know how to explain that, but I think that's the issue with a lot of men and women. And maybe that's the underlying issue with men. The fact that the trust barrier was broken, where it was like he only had her interests at heart. He only looked out for her like as his own rib, right? And then for her to let her outside energy infiltrate, then manipulate, then she makes the mistake. And instead of her being like, where was her righteousness, right? Where it's like, Adam, I ate this and you ain't gonna eat this. I'm gonna suffer alone. You can't eat this. I love you too much to let you eat this, right? Because I'm sure Adam would have did that. I'm sure Adam would have been like, no, Eve, you must stay. You can't eat the apple. You must go to heaven and stay with God. And I'm gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like if he would have ate the apple first, but he didn't eat the apple first. So it's almost like saying like men's obedience to God is envied by females because females want them to worship them, like in an aspect, serve me, not anything else, right? So maybe that's what it was. Maybe that was the conversation that Eve and the serpent had, where it was more so like a, yeah, you'll rule these guys. Where, you know, if, and this is just based on the story, because women and men are equal in my book. I don't really like, I don't want to go into the sexist, feminist energy and masculine and whatever the word is for that. You know what I'm saying? Chauvinist, right? I'm not trying to get into that because that's where this is going to go when a lot of people's ego and they offended and they feel a certain way, right? And this is the type of conversation that'll do it, right? Because it's not really putting the man in the issue. A lot of times when we try to talk to females like that, she'd be like, but the men do this, but the men do that. So it's always like a rebuttal where it's kind of like a dismissal of what the actual fact was to say, well, you do it too. And that's the reason why Adam and Eve was kicked out of the garden, because they both was trying to blame it on each other. Then when you think about that, that's another thing. How come Eve didn't just say, yo, man, I ate the apple and I told him, I made him eat the apple. Like I convinced him to eat the apple. Why would she say he made her eat the apple? Like they accused each other of eating the apple, of why they disobeyed God. But why would Eve say that if she let the serpent? Why she didn't blame the serpent? Oh, well, I think she might have did blame the serpent. That's why the feet was taken away. So maybe I'll take her away from that aspect. But she still gave him the apple, and that shows premeditation. She already knew that it was against God's will. She knew she messed up, right? But she was like, I'm gonna get him to mess up too, and that's something that I don't think women understand. That aspect is like that's like that original trust break is probably still in play. Yeah, I never addressed it like that. I never seen it like that until a few days ago. And a lot of women may look at me like, yo, why are you talking about us? Y'all making, but listen, we're just speaking on the story. If you could find the story itself in a different text, then maybe I'll go with that text then. All right. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Women could have been born first and then birthed man out the womb. But we just speaking on that story, right? For that story, for those that read that story and think about that story in critical ways, right? That story is just showing about a person, like they're trying to say the masculine energy yearns to be toward like God and be in that energy, but still yet has a loneliness. Then the female's kind of like where she wants to be worshipped as God. I'm not saying Eve said that, but it's kind of like evident by her not being able to take accountability. That's probably the first time when a person didn't take accountability for their actions, where she could have just took her punishment. Because I'm sure Adam would have just took his punishment and he would have spared her from the fall. You know what I'm saying? Versus him trying to say, hey, Eve, I got this blackberry right here, and put some apple in the blackberry and trick her into eating it, right? Sound like some devil shit. But I just want to ask that question to women. Do y'all feel like that's something that y'all would do? What do y'all think that conversation was to make y'all do that after eating that apple, knowing that God didn't want him to eat the apple? Did y'all not believe in God? Did y'all not care about for God? You see what I'm saying? And then it's like, I know about Adam eating the apple because men be silly for women and they do silly stuff because they in love, and that's what that shows. Like, you can be in love and do silly things and suffer behind it, and then, like, you know what I'm saying, you'll just be in that sufferance, and you'll have the female, but you'll be in that sufferance. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, in that aspect, for that story, the same can go for a female too. You know what I'm saying? I guess a guy can be the exact same opposite and try to mess up and then try to get her to mess up, so it's like they both messed up instead of, you know, it's stupid. So women, critically analyze that story for me, and in y'all hearts answer that question. If y'all was at Eve, would y'all have eaten the apple, or would y'all have even gave Adam the apple after? Because that was a little manipulative, and that's kind of sinister and premeditated, right? And also, do you think that you would have just took your punishment as far as females? Now, this is just a story. I'm not picking anybody out. You know what I'm saying? I'm just something I was thinking about and I wanted to speak on. That part of the story probably affects a lot of men today, especially a guy like me that loves God. So, we need to kind of figure out, like, what was that all about? Like, and I feel like there was more to that promise to females versus, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, men might have caught the short end stick because, you know what I'm saying, she ate it first and she got to like set it up the way she wanted it or whatever. I don't know. But just answer those questions for yourself and, you know, see what's up. Y'all can talk about it on, you know, wherever y'all get the chance to rebuttal. You know, I'm just critically thinking. And according to that story, Eve was a little manipulative by giving Adam the apple after she ate it, knowing that God didn't want them to eat that. And if that was her kids or something when she did it too, like, it's still fucked up nonetheless. You know what I'm saying? If it was the reverse, if Adam would have did it to her, it would have still been fucked up too. You know what I'm saying? So it's not here nor there. It's just the fact that this question asks for women to think about themselves without any trauma from the men. You can't use anything that a man did to you in the past to answer this question. You have to really just critically think about the story. Do you love God enough to break his rules? When you break his rules, do you trick the opposite to do the same so you feel like you have company? You know, like, which one do you believe? What do you feel? You know, thoughts, comments are appreciated. And it's just something I was thinking about. So I hope everybody have a good day. Shout out to my daughters. They out there chilling. I hope they get the sneakers they like. I got me some new feet. Nice. I'm just leave them in the stash. And probably get on my little PlayStation game, get some energy, good vibes, whatever, and just relax. So everybody out there, have a great one. Women, we love y'all. We hope y'all, you know, do the right thing. But y'all gotta really consider how that story was wrote, even whether that story was true or not. How many people read that story, how many men read that story, and how many men were subconsciously affected by that story, right? Because I just broke what I was thinking subconsciously. And I could have always been thinking about that, about the story. But it's just I couldn't understand it. And maybe that is one of the reasons why men have a tendency to dislike women in the aspect, because we do dislike just untrustworthy people. And a lot of them seem to do it in a way where they'll go to the grave with it. They'll keep secrets, they'll have conversations, they'll have meetings, they'll do things. You'll never know. You'll know by somebody else telling you, because they're more loyal to you than the actual person is. So you gotta just be careful with, you know what I'm saying, how the world works these days, men and women, right? But this again is for the women, for all you women out there that's always want to answer a question. Tell me what you would have did if you was Eve. Would you have eaten the apple? Would you have fought away the serpent? What do you think you would have talked about with the serpent? What do you think the serpent would have said to you to make you disobey God and eat that apple? And then what do you think that he would have said to you to make Adam eat the apple too? You see what I'm saying? So y'all answer that to yourselves. Y'all don't got to tell me, but I would like to know, and it would be nice. This should be the conversation that may start the healing between all that sexism, men and women, masculine, dumb tension that everybody thinks is something that is just stupidity and ignorance, right? So that's just something to think about it. You know, I'm just going to go ahead and relax now, and I hope everybody have a great one out there. Happy Sunday to everybody. Peace.